Hi, Tom Anderson, day 48 of 100 Days of Thankfulness. Today I'm talking about the importance of honesty as well as why I'm so thankful for my good friend Rob Leonard. So the last couple of days I've been sharing with you about what it takes to overcome your addictions. Today on the topic of honesty, that's a very critical ingredient to overcoming those addictions. First, in how you're honest with yourself, also how you need to be honest with your accountability partner. If you're not able to, A, be honest with yourself, and B, be honest with your accountability partner, then chances are it's probably not going to work so well for you. But if you do, though, if you are honest, eventually being accountable to God and being accountable to your accountability partner, you will overcome that addiction. So the first part on being honest with yourself is recognizing, first of all, that we have a problem. And part of that problem is recognizing that the addiction itself is harmful not only to ourselves, but it can in many cases be harmful to those around us. And it becomes a form of bondage. It becomes these chains, and we're suffering as a result of our addiction. As desperately as we want to get out of it, we just feel helpless in that regard, and that's where God can come in and help us with that. And that's actually what happened to me. Even before I had an accountability partner, I actually, in my desperation, turned to God. This would have been, 15 years ago, and just asked Him for help. At that time, I was involved with the church, and I was doing a lot. I was reading the Bible every day, and I was able, just through God's help, I was able to be clean for 3 years. And at the end of that 3 years, in my pride and my arrogance, I said, you know what, I bet I could, I'm over this this thing that I was addicted to. I bet I could even do this and not even be tempted by it anymore. And I did that, and I was tempted, and I've, right away, addiction is such a slippery slope. I fell right back into it, and then I was stuck again. We need to be honest with ourselves, not only at the beginning to realize how destructive it is, but also recognizing that addiction is not something that you're ever completely over. You always have to stay on guard against that addiction, and you always need to avoid doing things that would lead you into being tempted to fall back into it. So that was, it was a few years after that I got into Irv Wolf's program through Friendship Church. That I talked about that earlier. And during that time, I had an accountability partner, and I was very, honest with him. And as part of that honesty, I think a big reason why accountability works so well when you're honest about it is there were times when I was tempted, and I knew that, I could call him and say, hey, I'm tempted. But just even knowing that I would have to call him and explain to him why I'm thinking about doing something again, and I'd have that conversation in my mind about, how am I going to explain to him how I want to do this, and, I know it's wrong, and I know it's harmful to myself, and just playing that conversation in my mind actually was even enough at that time for me to just be like, I'm not even, never mind, I'm not going to do it, And so it was keeping me clean by having that accountability partner and knowing that the way I am, I was going to be, completely honest with him about it. And that's why it was so successful for me. Now, later on, a few years later, I'd been, clean once again. And what happened was, this is when I met Rob Leonard. He actually recognized a need within the church that, Dr. Irv Wolf's program was only happening once a year. And so there was this time where, people would have to wait several months before they could join to, be free of their addictions. So he started a program called Ready Reserves within Friendship Church, and recognizing my own need to always be, on guard and always be, have someone that I'm accountable to. I joined the Ready Reserves not because I had fallen back into it so much as I just wanted to make sure I didn't fall back into it. And so, because, the reality is, we have those opportunities. We always have those opportunities where we sometimes even lie to ourselves and think, I'm by myself, no one's going to know, I'll just do it this one time. And, C.S. Lewis said, integrity is always doing the right thing even when no one is watching. So it's so important to just never believe that lie, right? It's, once you have fallen down that slippery slope and you're back in the, you've done it the one time, now odds are you're going to be back into that addictive lifestyle again. So I'm just so thankful for Rob Leonard for, starting that Ready Reserves program to make sure that I stayed there and I didn't slip. And, that I had that continued accountability with him because, there's always that temptation, especially in those times when you're, by yourself and you think, maybe I could get away with it. Just don't go there. So I just want to say thanks once more to Rob Leonard for everything that he's done. And he's continuing, he's continuing to do a number of other ministries. He's moved away, but he's doing great, where he is in Colorado. So thanks again to Rob.